Hi everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at how to use the quick configuration in order to be able to configure some content aggregation with the Lightning Conductor. So what we're going to do first of all is add a Lightning Conductor instance on the page. So I've created a new page and we're in edit mode, and I'm going to go through and hit the add button so that we can go through and select the Lightning Conductor. Now it's showing under the frequently used for me, but if that's not the case, what you can do is just start to search for Lightning and you'll see the Lightning Conductor, and we can go through and add that onto the page. So once it's here, we can hit the configure button, and that's going to take us into the configuration dialog. There's also the edit web part button as well whilst you're still in edit mode, and through there you can get to some of the properties for the Lightning Conductor, and we'll be taking a quick look at that as well a little bit later on inside this video. So first of all, we're going to hit the configure button, and when we hit that button, the quick configuration launches, and what you'll see in here is that there's just a few questions so that we can go through and aggregate some content, and that content could reside in SharePoint lists, it could reside in SharePoint libraries such as document libraries or picture libraries. We've also got content that may reside through the Microsoft Graph, so applications such as Microsoft Planner, Microsoft To Do, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft OneDrive, and so on can also be accessed using the Lightning Conductor via Microsoft Graph. So it's those connections that we're going to refer to as the graph entity going forwards. So if we were to aggregate content from documents, you'll notice that is the default option, but there's other things that we can go through and select. So when we hit that drop down on what data we want to view, you'll see here we've got some different lists and libraries towards the top, such as document libraries and task lists and event lists. We also have announcements lists, picture libraries, and then beneath that are some of the graph entities where we've got messages and users and groups, Microsoft Planner plans and Microsoft Planner tasks, as well as the to-do lists and the OneDrive items or Outlook events. There's also other, and when you click that, it's going to take us into the advanced mode. So if you've created some custom list templates using custom content types and you want to aggregate from them, then it's the advanced dialog that you would need in order to be able to get at that content. And the next video is going to introduce you to that and exactly how to access some custom lists as well. So we're going to just do some generic type aggregation. So we'll start off with documents. And when I'm aggregating from documents, I can choose one of our predefined views. So you'll notice that we've got all documents, we've got my documents, and we've got my checked out documents. Basically, these are all using the grid view, so it will resemble a typical SharePoint library where you've got rows and columns and so on. We can select those columns once we've gone through this quick configuration, and we can change them if we want to, including adding columns. And then we can change the filter if we want to. So this is just a starting point. So I could choose, for example, my documents, which is going to filter on the created by, but we could also choose my checked out documents. So we'll have a look at the checked out property being true, and also the document was checked out to me. So we'll start off with the all documents. We can then choose where this content is going to come from. Now you can be much more specific inside the advanced mode. So if I wanted to select just certain document libraries, I could do that inside the advanced mode. What we can do here is just create some generic scopes, and you'll notice that there's some of these are using the search engine whilst others are using the client-side object model. Now the benefit to using the client-side object model is that you're going to get real-time results. Therefore, if somebody's just created a document, it's going to display. If somebody's just modified a property for a document, then we're going to see that update. If we're using search, then it's using the search index to display the content. So you're going to get much better performance in terms of displaying the results, but the results will display based on that search index. So it might be that if a document has just been created, it's not going to show up yet until that search index gets refreshed, of which we have no control over. That would typically be within the hour though in most environments. So what we're going to do is just choose one of the options. So you'll notice that we've got current site, which is literally this current SharePoint site or current team that I might be in. I've got the current site and any subsites. So if you are using subsites, or child sites as you may refer to them as, then it will be from this site down inside that hierarchy. We also have the entire site collection. So if I'm in a subsite, that will include sites beneath me. It will also include sibling sites and parent sites as well. And then we also have, for hub sites with associated sites, we can choose the current site and anything associated with it. Or there's also the option of current tenant, which will be everything, every site inside the tenant, but they are security trimmed. And then you've got similar options for current site collection, current tenant using the search engine. So what we're going to do is choose the current site and associated sites. And once I've selected that option, I can also choose how I want to display this content. And that will be similar for every type of list or library that we connect to. There'll be a choice as to how you want to display it. So for tasks, for example, we're going to have a grid view as well as a calendar view. And there's also a card view. For events, there's a card view or a calendar as well. And then also for things like planner plans, you'll notice there's a specific task view for that. So we'll start off with the grid view. And when we choose the grid view, there's a couple of options that may be specific to the type of list or library that we're aggregating from. So for this one, we can display person avatars, which is basically the people icon, like you see in the top right corner here, will show up against any type of person column inside the document library. So for that, it will be the created by and the modified by. And you'll also be able to get to the person's people card through that avatar as well. And then there's also the support document preview, which is a relatively new feature, but that allows us to connect two different Lightning conductors together in order to be able to choose a document and then preview that document in another web part. And we'll show that as one of the more advanced videos later on. So let's just hit save. And you can see how we've got some content coming back. So we've got the folders which we can navigate. We can open up and close those folders. We also have some of the typical types of columns that we may want to see. And again, we'll get into this a little bit later, but notice how you can also go through and customize each of these whilst we're still in edit mode. So if I want to add additional columns, we can do that. We can hide certain columns if we want. We can move the columns around, and you can also apply things like conditional formatting and so on to that view as well. But like I said, we'll get into that in a bit more depth in one of the view videos later on. So that's our first view. Now you'll notice that I can, in the property pane on the right hand side, label that view. So I might call this hub site documents, since that's where they're coming from. And we can add a new view as well by hitting that plus. So if we wanted to show not just documents, but also maybe tasks as well, I can create a new view called tasks, and we can configure that one using the quick configuration too. And this time we're going to simply choose tasks. Again, there's predefined views. We can choose the scope. So again, I'm going to choose the current site and associated sites. And notice again that I've got a choice of different ways to display it. And once more, we'll choose the grid view and display the avatars. So now we get a drop down of views. The hub site documents is the default view. That happened to be the first one that I created. If we want to change the default view, we can do that by clicking on the ellipsis over here in the Lightning Conductor panel, and notice that we can change the default view in here. Okay, so there are two views, and we can add a third one if we want to as well. So I'm going to show you this time how we can use something from Planner. So I'll create a view called Planner, and this time we're going to choose the Planner plans. And there's no real refinements for this one, it's just all Planner plans. It happens to be security trimmed. There's no way of changing from Microsoft Graph. That's how we're going to access it. And we can again display those inside a grid view or a task view. And I'm going to jump into the task view this time. And that task view is actually a JSON view that we created that you can use, but you could also customize in code if you wanted to. So I'm going to save on that one. So we now have a third view called Planner, which I can go through and access as well. So that's how we can create different views using the Lightning Conductor and the quick configuration. Now, just whilst we're in here, if you wanted to clone any views or anything like that, you can do so. So if we wanted something similar to hub site documents, notice in here that I can just simply go through and clone that view. So now we can give that a different name if it had different refinements. So I'm going to just put by me, and then we can go through and customize it. And we may decide that we're going to filter on one of the columns. such as created by, and we'll say that is equal to me. Okay, so now we've got 4 different views. This one is slightly similar, but it's only showing documents created by me. Okay, so that's working with the quick configuration. And again, if you wanted to delete any views, you can do that as well using that side panel. So what we're going to get into next is using the advanced mode. So we're going to use the advanced mode to configure the Lightning Conductor, and we're just going to do that from a high-level view first of all, so you get used to using it, and then we'll go into more detail about the different data sources and the different types of view that you can create. Okay, hope you found this useful. Many thanks.